Hi, my name is Wendy. I was asked to share about the Moving Beyond the Page curriculum, and I was excited to do so because it's something that I've used for several years now with my kids. I've used almost every single level of it, starting from kindergarten only up to 6th grade. So we are at 10 to 12 right now, and I'm using with my 6th grade son. And I'm also able to work it so that way my 4th grade son can do it with us right now. I will talk about that later of how you can do some modifications to group kids together, but we'll get to that later. I just wanted to share why I like Moving Beyond the Page. I love that it's literacy based. You get lots of wonderful books, children's books and novels that your kids will really enjoy. There's a lot of books that I wouldn't have thought to have my children read, but because of the curriculum we are doing it, and sometimes they like them, sometimes they don't. And that's okay, because every book that we've done and every unit study that we've done, I say we, because I've learned a lot too, but my boys and my kids have grown so much. And we always walk away having some sort of fun memory or great conversations in ways that we've learned. So I'm going to start with the level 4 to 5. This is my favorite level because it's kindergarten and it's just really sweet. It's fun and it really helps the youngsters to enjoy reading and finding how you can incorporate the book into life and play and comparing it to our real world. So I'm going to explain what you get when you order. The way it works for kindergarten is their unit studies weekly. So every week you will get one letter of the alphabet that you're going to focus on and a book that matches it. And so for this unit, it's the letter Z, Greedy Zebra. And so you're going to read this book a couple times throughout the week, and you're going to do different activities based out of the book. The parent's manual will give you everything that you need. And then you'll also get all of these nice little bags that match the unit. So this is unit 26, Z for zebra, and it goes with this book. And all of the crafts and everything you need is already there. Moms, you will love this because you don't have to go and get little die cuts of all of the African animals. You don't have to get all the paint supplies and print out the special pictures. Is already there. Every lesson is very different as far as what they'll be doing and the craft activity that they're doing. Sometimes it's a die cutout of, let's say, a letter Z, and then they decorate it with different craft supplies and everything. I like to hang those up. Some things are just really fun. You will also get a kit full of common supplies that you will use throughout the year. You'll get paint, you'll get brushes, you'll get maybe some specialty markers, cardstock paper, all of the little things that you could possibly need. Sometimes you need to use household items, but it's pretty rare that I've ever had to buy anything. And if I did, I probably skip it if I didn't remember to do it. So that is Moving Beyond the Page 4 to 5. Every week is different, new letter. You also have a children's workbook. And in the workbook, they are doing a little bit of handwriting of the letter that they're learning. They'll do some sort of little activity with the letters and sometimes some sort of craft or activity that kind of brings it all together that's connected with the book. So great level, I love it. Levels 5 to 7 and 6 to 8, it changes a little bit. I wish I could say that I like it, but I'm not a huge fan. For the first time, I'm doing level 5 to 7 with my daughter. She's in 1st grade. Sometimes people use this level for kindergarten. I'm using it for 1st for her. Things change a little bit in these two age groups. Rather than having the lessons match the book to, like, the focus is the book, the lessons and themes within the book, and then you do lessons with it. It's sort of opposite, where they more so have themes and they do unit studies starting at this age. And then they kind of pick and choose books that make it match. For example, one of the themes is, or one of the units is going to be senses. And so the books that they choose are the Magic School Bus and My 5 Senses, and they make it fit in. So within, goodness, probably a 3 or 4 week unit, these are the only 2 books that you're reading. I prefer a little more literature in our daily activities. But one thing I do like that they do in these levels is they give a lot of links that they provide in the lessons. So maybe instead of reading the book, they will give you a link that you connect to on your computer that is for a read aloud of a book that's on YouTube maybe. Or sometimes they have activities for you to do that are on there. And so it kind of mixes it up and you have access to more stories. You'll have to look online to see the different unit studies and the different concepts that you would be covering. I think it's all excellent for kindergarten, first graders. It's really in their level of understanding. I really like moving beyond the page in the aspect for social studies and science. They have this idea, the concept is to start small. So you start with your community. So before you start in your community, you start in your home. And then you start in your home and your personal life, and then it goes to like your neighborhood, and then your town, and then your states, and then the United States, and then the world. Other curriculums are different with that, where a lot of times they start really big and then they come small. But when they're 5, 6 years old, I really like the idea that they're connecting it to themselves and their own personal life to understand how social studies works to help with those connections. For levels 5 to 7 and 6 to 8, I do report on those more full time. And level 4 to 5 for kindergarten, I use that supplemental. Hopefully the consultants agree with this, but I've always used it supplementally because for the 4 to 5 level, it's really more for the joy of reading and the fun activities and really bringing school to life. But it is not phonics. It does not have a phonics program and it's not a math program. So make sure you find a good phonics program, something like All About Reading, that you use along with moving beyond the page. At times, like if my child is struggling, we will focus on phonics, we'll focus on math, and do a little less of the moving beyond the page, the 4 to 5 level. And we do that just for like really fun activities. So for levels 6 to 8, it's the same way as far as how it works for social studies and science. They kind of have these themes and these unit studies and they fit books to match. Sometimes it's really great and the kids really enjoy it. Other times they don't. I find that in these 2 levels, 5 to 7 and 6 to 8, if you as a parent and teacher are comfortable with knowing when to skip activities, they find a lot more freedom and independence and confidence in the curriculum. Sometimes parents hate moving beyond the page because they're like, it's so much busy work and it drives me crazy and that's too much. But I always recommend to find what your child needs, figure out what the concept is that they are needing to learn. What is it like? What is it that they're trying to learn in this lesson, or that they need to learn in this lesson? Make sure it's understood, and then like just ignore and skip the activities that are busy work. Yeah, some of them really are a lot of cutting and drawing and crafts and art, and those are the ones that I'll often skip. Or I'll tell my child, you know, you can go outside and play for 20 minutes for your break, or if you want to do this craft, you can do that too. But either way, it's your break time. And so I guess what I'm trying to say is you have that opportunity to do that and take the lead with your child's learning. If you are trying to get every single activity done, it's going to drive you crazy because there is a lot to do, and some of it is pretty meaningless and it's more just for enjoyment. So be confident, enjoy what you're doing with your child, and kind of go off of their needs. The next level, ages 7 to 9, I think this is usually 3rd grade, maybe some advanced 2nd graders. This is when it goes back to what I love about moving beyond the page, where it's back to being literacy based, and then it's all about the book that they're reading, and then they add in activities out of the book. So this is more in the middle of the year activity, but it's Charlotte's Web. So your child will read probably 1 or 2 chapters a day, and then they will answer questions. So there's always comprehension questions, and then usually some sort of activity, and sometimes some sort of writing or grammar, or I think they focus a little bit more on writing at this age. there is not a lot of grammar in the lower levels. So just a warning, if you get concerned that there's not a lot of grammar, I will say two things. One, I always supplemented with Evan Moore, so that way they had a little bit more exposure to grammar and not just writing whatever they want all the time. So a little more exposure, I use Evan Moore, but it comes later in the later levels. So once you get to 8 to 10 and 9 to 11 and 10 to 12, there's a lot more grammar and writing in those units. So it comes later. I think the whole purpose of Moving Beyond the Page is they really want children to have that love for education and the love of books and learning. So when they're writing, they're not focusing on correct punctuation and correct grammar and sentence structure, but they're focusing on just getting all their information down on paper, which I like that. I think that's good. So those are the two things to know about that. Back to this. And Moving Beyond the Page, if you use it as a full curriculum, you're going to get language arts, which will be your Charlotte's Web book, and you are going to get a science. Every other unit alternates between science and social studies. So you'll never do both science and social studies at the same time. It's always one or the other, and your consultant knows how to put that in your plan, your SLP, so that way it's not like you always have to report on both. It's just kind of how it all works together as a whole. And so, as you can see, it matches. We have Charlotte's Web, and then in science, they're learning about life cycles. It comes together really beautifully. What they're reading in their book matches what they're learning in science. And there are books that go with the science lesson or the science units that they're usually pretty fun. Sometimes they're Usborne, sometimes they're just good picture books full of good information. So the same goes for every other unit or every other grade level after this. So I'm going to skip 9 to 11. I'll come to 10 to 12 now. That's what I'm doing. I recently did Number the Stars with my boys, and then we did World War I and World War II for social studies. Number the Stars was a fantastic read. It was really fun, brought lots of great conversation. Something to share about as they get older is that they do a lot of reading. They will read probably maybe 2 to 4 chapters a day. Sometimes it's a quick read, and other times it's pretty long. Some of the books can be challenging, and if they are, that's where I kind of go about it in different ways. Starting from when they're little, all the way even through 6th grade, I do the same method. Sometimes I will have my kids read the book independently, and I always do the comprehension questions with them to make sure they're understanding it. Sometimes I'll do just the opposite, and I will read the book out loud to them, and then they do the comprehension questions independently, write everything out, and make sure it's nice, complete sentences, because I save them a lot of time with reading. Because I save them a lot of time reading, they can take the time to do their questions. Sometimes I allow them to get an audiobook. I will use the Libby app on the library, from the library website. And I kind of look in advance to make sure I have the books available for the time we'll come across it. Sometimes it works out, sometimes it doesn't. But if it does, they really enjoy that, because then they can read the book independently and listen to the audiobook at the same time. And it just kind of brings the book to life a little bit and helps them to imagine it well. Sometimes we'll just sit down together and we'll go back and forth and read, taking turns reading pages or paragraphs or chapters. So it's totally up to you. I would just recommend to enjoy this time with your child as you're learning. It does take up a lot of time because you are reading a lot, but it's something that is usually pretty enjoyable. There's a nice time to connect and cuddle up together. And I like reading with them because it brings about a lot of conversation, and it brings out a lot of questions that they didn't understand in the book, so they can just stop and pause and we can discuss it. And that's when we usually find that we get a lot deeper into our discussions. So I did mention earlier that I have my 4th grade son doing ages 10 to 12 with my 6th grade son. I was a little nervous about doing that because I didn't want him to skip one of the levels because I really liked that level. I really liked the 9 to 11 level. I felt like that's when things change. 9 to 11 is when the directions are changed, where they're no longer for the parent to speak to the child and like how to discuss things, but the directions are for the student. And so I feel like the directions are simplified. A lot of the concepts are simplified, and it allows the student to have more independence. And that is the goal that Moving Beyond the Page is doing. And so they're really hoping by 5th grade that the child is doing a lot of their work independently. I, of course, never fully hand it off independently, but there are days where I'll just say, go do it. I'll check, kind of review it, call it good, and then a couple days later, we'll really go deep and discuss everything. Okay, so for the 4th grader, how I have them both work together is in a lot of the activities, they will give you an option 1 or an option 2. And you have the choice normally to decide which level is best for your child. Sometimes people use Moving Beyond the Page for students who are advanced, or sometimes at grade level, or sometimes a little below, and they use a lower level. So it's totally up to you. So there's always an option 1 or an option 2 for the activity. Option 1 was a little too easy in my opinion for my 6th grader, so we did option 2. For my 4th grader, I either 1, ordered an extra set of the worksheets. I forget the correct word that they use on the website, but you can order an entire complete set of worksheets. So you're not ordering an extra book, but just the activities, or you can order a complete set of books, or I will give him the lower option. Another thing I wanted to share was once you enter the 9 to 11 and 10 to 12 ages, this is when they really start to focus on grammar, structuring essays, writing a lot more papers, and sentence structure. So in each unit, so every unit is 3 weeks approximately. In every unit, at some point in the unit, you will write a form of an essay. So as you go through, you will write the different forms of essays, and you will get them all covered. And it's a really great chance for the kids to apply what they've read in their book and to put it to use in their writing. So in Number the Stars, it's about a young gal in World War II who helped save the Jews in Denmark. And so my son's research paper was about Denmark's involvement in World War II. And so he did a research paper on it, put it all together, did all the formatting, and it was excellent. I also really liked how they do their writing because they always use a rubric, and the child is to follow it, to check it, to go through it, and then before he says he's done, and then I grade it, he's already done most of the work, and there's really not much that needs to be graded. Another thing in the later levels for 9 to 11 and 10 to 12 is they focus not just on writing, but they focus on the grammar and sentence structuring in the parts of speech and everything. So in every unit, they will typically choose one key topic. So I've noticed in this year for ages 10 to 12, they're going through and like the whole unit, they're focusing on pronouns. And then another unit, they will focus on adverbs. And another unit, they focus on parts of speech. Another one, they focus on editing papers, of how to edit a paper and how to use the 3 little lines underneath the capital letter, like if it needs to be capitalized. All these great things that children aren't always learning, but it's really good for them. So Moving Beyond the Page also has a math curriculum. I was a little nervous about using it because it was new, and I was using Singapore math with my kids earlier when I first started doing school with them. I've now switched to teaching textbooks. Moving Beyond the Page, I got for my daughter who's in 1st grade, and I love it. I got ages 5 to 7 for math, and it came with this great kit full of manipulatives. I will show you just a few things. This is just a few things. You get the abacus, you get lots of number cards, you get lots of flashcards, any and every little piece of craft that you might use doing curriculum or doing activities. And then, like I said, you get everything. You get, I got this box to use, but you get all the base 10 blocks, you get dominoes, you get fake money, you get dice, you get counters, you get rubber bands, you get all sorts of things. So I keep this close because this is the things that I use regularly. I use my whiteboard almost every day, and we use the abacus a lot. There's tons of things. And I love moving beyond the page because like language arts is very hands-on, and especially for the math, it's very hands-on. There are some days where we don't even use our workbook. We will go outside, we'll take the chalk and we will write a number line. We'll turn it into a game, we'll do hopscotch. We'll start at a number and go up and go down, and it just really helps the littles with getting a good concept of their numbers. I would say that this would be great for your child even if they don't struggle in math, because it gives a really solid foundation of numbers. So many things. I mean, us moms, we learn math differently at our time, and so it really helps them to understand the groups of tens, the ones, and how they all fit together. So I'm not going to talk a lot about math because that's about all I have to say. I only have experience with the 5 to 7 level. I plan to do it next year because I'm finding that it's been awesome and it makes it really fun. I don't know if I would recommend it as the kids get older because I don't know if it would be as challenging as what maybe the state standards are. But for now, I would say up to 3rd grade, it would be an excellent curriculum to at least check out and see if it works for your family. As you're doing Moving Beyond the Page, I would really recommend you to look at the front page where it says Unit Review Sheet, and it's going to give you all of the lessons with the key objectives for your child to learn. And I would just review them and make sure that is what they're learning and that's what they're walking away with at the end of the lesson. And all of the little activities that don't align, or maybe all the little crafts or field trips. Sometimes they have you go on field trips, you just don't have time for them. Skip it and don't feel bad about it. Focus on the objectives and just kind of use your parent manual to help you to see what is it that they're trying to have my child understand and walk away with. So use that as your guide. Really enjoy it. If there is a unit that you don't like, your child doesn't like, this is when I will go through the unit quickly. We will read the book, we will do comprehension questions and any of the grammar, and then we call it good. Like, you don't have to dive in deep and really dig in and enjoy it. That happens sometimes. Sometimes there are units that are just really boring and not interesting. And then the units that your child really enjoys, then dig deep and enjoy and have great conversations. So learn how to just kind of modify the curriculum to make it work for you. You don't have to follow every single step. You will not survive as a homeschool mom doing that. It will be really frustrating and probably feel defeated. So be confident in teaching your child and just really enjoy it and have fun. So anyway, I hope that this is helpful for you. If you have questions, there's so many people who use Moving Beyond the Page. Your consultant, I would normally say come talk to me, but no one's ever at the school anyway, so that won't work. But you can always reach out to me on Messenger or something. So hope you are all having a great year, and hopefully you enjoy this curriculum.